Hey guys, I really wanted to get a Halloween video out this year, but kind of got like busy and stuff, so that didn't happen. Um, I figured that, I kind of wrote it, and I wrote it, and I was like looking for pictures, but then Halloween kind of came up so quick, and next thing you knew, it was like Halloween night, and I didn't have it finished, and I was like, crap. So I just said, screw it. Who cares? I just can't. I'm not going to be able to get this Halloween video up in time. So I figured I might as well finish it and just put it up. And I know a lot of people will probably say, oh, this, it's past Halloween. I don't really want to watch this crap. But, whatever. For the three people that might enjoy this, I just decided to throw it up. And I just found a bunch of Halloween or paranormal stories that either happened on Halloween night or around Halloween and had something to do with Halloween. So, anyways, I hope you enjoy. 1995, October 30th, two young people, Jane and Carl, were driving down Reservoir Road in Brewster, New York. It was 11 p.m. As they drove along, Carl told Jane that he heard a noise. It sounded like a voice whispering in his left ear. It was deep, like a man trying to talk with a sore throat. It startled Carl, who admitted that he didn't quite understand what the voice was saying, but it slowly started to get clearer. At some point, Carl was able to make out what it was saying. Back away and leave this place. As it was so close to Halloween, Jane merely laughed it off. She assumed that Carl was pulling one over on her. Carl became adamant that he wasn't joking and that he did hear a voice. He abruptly stopped the car and got out to check and see if somebody might be around injured or calling for help. They could see nothing. Carl walked down the roadway away from the car. Jane started to get nervous. Suddenly, to her surprise, she heard a sound in the empty driver's seat. Right before her eyes, a depression formed in the seat as if someone invisible had just sat down next to her. She assumed her eyes were playing tricks on her. Carl soon returned to the car. As he opened the door, he was struck with a terrible odor. He asked Jane if she smelled that, but she didn't. She did, however, acknowledge that she felt very uneasy. Although scared, Jane was convinced that Carl was trying to play some type of trick on her. Again, Carl pressed in a very shaky voice, "Jane, do you smell that?" At that moment, a strong smell, something they likened to burning sulfur, permeated the car. It was so intense they nearly choked and were forced to evacuate the vehicle. At this point, Jane was convinced that whatever was going on, Carl was not a part of it. Then, if things couldn't get any more weirder, they together started hearing strange sounds coming from off in the darkened forest. It sounded like chanting in the woods alongside the road. Speaking to investigators, Carl thought it sounded like Latin and guessed that someone was doing some type of ritual. Carl and Jane became overcome with fear and they began to voice prayers. Suddenly, the chanting and sulfur smell stopped almost instantly and was replaced by a strong and pleasant smell of lilacs. They quickly got back into the car. The smell of lilacs was overpowering. They began to drive slowly to the southeast end of the road when suddenly they heard an explosion that vibrated the car. Carl stopped the car. He assumed something had happened to the engine. He got out and checked but saw nothing. Then a bright globe of blue light the size of a basketball appeared on the north end of the road and with incredible speed whisked past them, turned, and vanished into the woods. It was completely silent. As the sphere of light passed by them, it was so close it pushed them both against the car. When the light was at its closest, they told investigators they felt a prickly feeling like ants were crawling up and down their backs. The feeling faded as soon as the light passed, but now they were both quite terrified. Both of them were eager to get out of there and get home. As they entered the vehicle, another loud explosion shook everything once again. The sound seemed to come from the woods on top of a hill to the left of the road. They looked toward that direction. This is when Jane observed something large. She thought it was a truck coming down the path. Carl frantically started the car, put it into gear, and sped down the road. Jane remembers looking out the back window and seeing a lit object come out of the woods to the road and shoot straight up into the sky. They eventually made it home. To date, they have never returned to Reservoir Road and the old mine again, at least not after dark. From this report, it sounds like Jane and Carl had a front row seat to high strangeness of the tallest order. It sounds as though they were being set up to be taken. Jane claims she observed a craft seemingly bearing down on them as they drove. One can only wonder what might have happened to them had they chosen to linger on that road much longer. While it seems like Jane and Carl were able to get away unscathed, for a woman partying at a beach on Halloween night with some friends, she wasn't so lucky. This account, which was sent to Dave Schrader at Darkness Radio, if true, is absolutely terrifying. October 31st, 2015, Halloween night, a group of friends had gathered at the beach where they lit a bonfire and proceeded to party. Before long, they observed a strange flash of light. This would set into motion a bizarre set of events. Prior to the beach get-together, the witness recalls that one of her friends, Jessica, had talked about aliens. Jessica was the token goth girl who was really into the paranormal. Days prior to the beach event, she claimed to be visited by otherworldly beings in her home at the family farm. She was a self-proclaimed witch, one of those. We believe she had something to do with all this. According to the witness, after seeing the flash of light at the beach, the evening of fun and partying came to an abrupt and disturbing halt. Her next memory was waking up in a clearing far away from the beach. After the night at the beach, we all, including Jessica, woke up 2 towns over in the clearing of the dense woods. No car, no clothes, just our underwear. Jessica and her boyfriend at the time were laid near each other hand in hand. I was the first to wake up. I rubbed my hand in my hair, and I felt something I damn well knew it wasn't there before. I had needle marks on my arm, and it wasn't normal marks. Something happened that shouldn't happen. Of course, I was angry and very distraught, so I began to run. It was while running I heard this muffled screech or growl. I really don't know what it was, but I had to cover my ears and close my eyes. It was in that whatever amount of lost time, I woke up in a hospital. According to the witness, she was told that she was found on the side of the road naked, covered in handprints, bruises, and she had a strange lightning bolt-looking burn mark on her body. She had also lost a lot of blood, was dehydrated, and from what they could tell, she had been sexually assaulted. While it might sound like she had been slipped some Rohypnol or some other drug and then was taken advantage of by one of her friends, she was pretty certain that was not the case. Like her friends had experienced the same thing, the flash of light, the blackout, and then waking up in the clearing, unaware of what had transpired. While none of them had any memory of what happened that night, they believed that what happened to them later was somehow connected to the flash. I've never believed in any of this stuff until it happened to me. I don't want to completely pinpoint aliens, but I have a strong feeling whatever happened wasn't by the hands of a human. No human can make a noise like that or carry 5 people miles and miles away and perform those kinds of tests on them overnight. On the night of October 31st, 1994, Halloween night, something came down on an isolated field at Hepton Hill, just north of the Cotswolds. Residents in Church Lench and Norton claimed to have watched as a barrel-like object descended at a high rate of speed into a field. Soon after, strange men in military vehicles arrived on the scene. They sealed off the area, issuing strong warnings to any and all those who attempted to access the location. Not wasting any time, the object was loaded aboard a Royal Navy lorry and driven off to destinations unknown. The Royal Air Force and the Fleet Air Arm issued strong denials of any involvement in the crash and subsequent recovery operation upon questioning. Paul Brooke, a resident of Norton, confirmed the crash to investigators. He likened the object to a 40-gallon drum. After the crash, Paul claims that several fire engines and plenty of police officers arrived on the scene. They cordoned off the area, and people were stopped from entering the field. Later, he watched as the object was taken away by a Royal Navy vehicle with a police escort at the front and the back. Police Inspector Mike Rowlands denied the incident took place. With that, the media seemed to back off the case, happy to file it away as just another crazy UFO story. So did something come down on Hepton Hill on Halloween night? If it did, it seems the officials in the UK have no interest in confirming it. It was the night before Halloween, October 30, 2007. Cryptozoologist and investigator Ivan Vorazed was interviewing a couple and their 6 children as a result of their previous encounters with the bizarre entity near their home in Coquimbo, Chile. During the interview, one of the children ran into the room. He was frantic, insisting that the creature was now standing in front of their property. Everyone, including Vorazed, went to check. Sure enough, something was there. Vorazed noticed that it seemed to be crouching down at a distance of 30 meters from the house. Its head was large and elongated like that of a horse. Its eyes were reddish and seemed to glow in the dark and appeared to be positioned on the side of its head. There appeared to be a sort of black crest, like a porcupine, on the creature's head. The creature's body was of a dark and white tone. It seemed to fluctuate constantly. Its height was about 80 centimeters. Its arms were long, with huge claw-like hands. On them they could see large and small claws. Its feet had a sort of single claw like that of a rooster. It seemed to stare indirectly at the group, sort of a downward glance. They could not see any other details of the face except for the eyes. Vorazed and the family watched the creature for about 15 minutes before it darted off. Immediately after the creature left, the children ran crying into the house, and Vorazed noticed a strange, heavy, almost oppressive atmosphere in the area. Soon after, some of the witnesses began to suffer from dizziness, slurred speech, and a sense of confusion. Panic gripped the family. According to Vorazed, he took several pictures with his infrared camera of the creature, but none of the frames came out. The camera worked normally when the creature left. October 30, 2010. One day before Halloween, 2 high school students, Jeremy and Tony, had decided to do some exploring at an old abandoned mill near the school in Franklin, New Hampshire. They had heard that it was haunted, so they were hoping to get a cheap scare by checking it out. Upon arriving, Jeremy and his friend Tony both got a weird vibe. They searched around the building for a way inside, as the doors and windows were boarded up. They made 3 passes around the building but found nothing. Eventually, after determining that there was nobody around, they decided to look for another way inside, possibly a broken window or a vent. Tony went around back while Jeremy walked into a line of close-growing evergreen trees against the building, hoping there may be an opening there. Next thing Jeremy heard was his friend calling for help. "Jeremy, Jeremy, Jeremy, there is a guy following me." Jeremy bolted from the trees looking for his friend. When he found Tony, she was quite shook up. She claims that when she turned the corner of the building, there was a man standing there, as if waiting for her. He smiled at her. It was weird, as if he knew something she didn't. Jeremy could tell she was spooked. I looked, and next thing I knew, this bald guy in a dark trench coat walked around the corner. I grabbed Tony and pulled her away from him, leading us toward the entrance of Odell Park, which was not far from us. We stood there, and he stood not far up the street, back turned toward us. Every time we went to take a step forward, he would turn and smile. So I asked her if he seemed normal. That is when she told me his eyes were all black. Tony and Jeremy were eventually able to get away. This case was sent to Stephen Wagner of ParanormalAbout.com. Was this some pervert playing a prank? Dark contact lenses? Was Tony imagining things? Or had Tony and Jeremy actually encountered a black-eyed man the day before Halloween? Lon Strickler of the Phantoms and Monsters blog was sent a bizarre story which was said to have occurred on Halloween night in 2011. The witness, an elderly woman, was in Arlington, Texas, handing out candies for trick-or-treaters. Halloween night of 2011 was a busy one on our street. At one point I answered the doorbell to a large group of kids of various ages. 2 of the tallest ones were dressed in rather flashy costumes. I remember nylon net, glitter, sequins, and garish makeup. I don't remember if they were both girls or if one was a boy. I always pay attention and compliment the kids on their costumes. When I looked at the eyes of the teenagers, I was really taken aback. The entire visible eyeballs were a shiny coal black. I told them they had great costumes, and I think I asked if those things hurt their eyes. I naturally assumed they were wearing contact lenses, covering their entire eye surface. I got no answer to my question. They just sort of smiled. Maybe they just didn't want to converse with an elderly grandmother type. I don't even know if I got a thank you for the candy from them or not. I closed the door before the mass of kids left the porch, so I don't know if the two teens went off by themselves or with some of the younger kids. The woman claims she was so disturbed by the children that she mentioned it to her husband, that the two kids appeared to be wearing contact lenses that were painful. At that time, she had never heard of black-eyed kids. Were they hybrids or just ultra-cool teens? I tend to believe the latter, and that they were trying to shock people. In any case, they succeeded with me. I know I would not have let them in my house, whatever they were. Not just kids with black eyes are creeping people out on Halloween. For a woman named Mary, her run-in with a group of creepy kids in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the night after Halloween, left her so disturbed that she actually reached out to both George Norrie and Dave Schrader looking for answers. This happened the night after Halloween 2014. I deliver newspapers at night, and I was delivering newspapers that night, and it was business as usual. I rounded this curve and I saw a group of kids in the middle of the road. There was about 6 of them, and they were all wearing gray robes with hoods. They didn't have the hoods on. They were down their backs. I thought that was kind of strange because Halloween had ended about 10 hours before that. She claims that one of the kids turned and looked at her. The kid then started to move in her direction very quickly. One of them saw me and started walking very quickly towards my car, saying something. She got very close to my car, and I could see that she was about 15 years old. And my first thought was, why was she out there? That's pretty young to be out there at that time of night. It was about 4:30 in the morning. Mary became frightened by the girl's strange behavior and tried to get away. I drove around her, but then there were the other 5 kids in the middle of the road, and they saw me, and they fanned out to surround my car so I couldn't move, and that scared me. I drove up on the lawn to get around them, but they were coming pretty quickly at my car, and I almost hit one of them, and then I thought, I'm going to call the police because this is quite odd. Mary claims she looked in her rear view and was surprised to see them standing together. She attempted to follow them, but that's when things got really strange. They were all huddled together like a football huddle, and I thought, you know, these are kids, and I almost hit one of them. You'd think they'd be jumping up and down and swearing and flipping me off, but they weren't. They were all together in this huddle, and then they went down this street, and I thought I better follow them so I can tell the police what they are doing. And I mean, it was seconds since I turned around and I went down that street, and they were gone. Just that fast, they were gone. And there's no way all of them could have gotten anywhere. These kids literally disappeared. They went down this big street with big houses and with big lawns, and I was right behind them, and there's no way they could have gotten anywhere. They couldn't even have made it to the end of the first house without me seeing them, and they were gone, and that's what freaked me out. It was so bizarre, and it scared me. I was scared to be out for 3 nights. Mary was adamant the event happened, and she had no explanation for it. From creepy kids to creepy creatures, on October 31st, 1996, a man in Murray County in Oklahoma, not far from the town of Sulphur, claims he encountered something very strange in the night. It was a chilly Halloween night, 1996. The witness had just taken his younger brother, a high school senior at the time, to Veterans Lake inside the Chickasaw National Recreation Area in Sulphur, Oklahoma. Apparently some of his friends from the high school band were going to meet that night to try and see the Lady of the Lake, a local myth. As they drove to the lake, the witness claims he was so preoccupied with the conversation he was having with his brother that he wasn't paying much attention to what was going on around him. After dropping his brother off, he turned around and began heading home. It was now just after 11:30 p.m., quite dark out. I drove back down toward the 12th Street entrance to the park. I drove over the Rock Creek Bridge, which crosses the Rock Creek just a few yards south of the Rock Creek campgrounds. As I drove over the low-water bridge, I saw a figure squatted at the edge of the creek about 20 yards east, downriver from the bridge. It was quite large, at least 4.5 to 5 feet tall in the squatted position. I drove on down a little ways and turned the car around. The witness went back to the bridge and shined his headlights down the creek, hoping to illuminate the creature enough that he could get a better look at it. It was still there. It was on the balls of its feet with its hands in the water. The creature was huge and hairy. The dark hair was shiny in the car light, but it was hard to make out the exact color. For what was only a few seconds, I am sure, but seemed like at least 15 minutes, I watched the creature. It did not even glorify my presence with a glance. It merely rose up, walked across the creek, up the bank, and off into the trees. Was this merely a kid in a costume? It was Halloween night, so it's definitely a possibility. For whatever reason, the witness wasn't convinced that it was just a kid in a costume. Something about the creature spooked him enough to want to file a report with the BFRO. I guess it wouldn't be a Halloween video if I didn't include at least one Pumpkin Man story. This one was actually sent to me from a person who watches my videos. While the event is said to have happened sometime after Halloween, it definitely has earned the right to be included, if only because the person, or whatever it was seen wearing a pumpkin on his head. According to the guy who sent the story along, this event happened in the mid-1960s in the anthracite coal region of northeastern Pennsylvania. I was stunned to see someone talk about a pumpkin man, because I never heard it mentioned other than that one story. This reminds me of a story that was told to me 50 years ago. A guy I knew was walking through the woods, shortcut path, when out of the blue he saw a man in a black suit with a pumpkin over his head. It was nodding its head as if to say, yes, you are seeing what you think you're seeing. Being 13 at the time, he got totally freaked out because it was so bizarre. He just ran. He looked back and it was facing him and nodding, but made no move to pursue him. I said, do you think it was someone trying to scare you as a joke? It was after Halloween, so he didn't think so. He used that path all the time and never encountered anything weird. He said the guy was thin, tall, and had very pale hands. Was it just some creep? I don't know. My friend would no longer use that path when walking alone. He was terrified of seeing it again. So was this just some weirdo with a pumpkin over his head, just kind of like spooking the kids? I don't know. It's possible. But I don't know. I thought I would include it because it is a Pumpkin Man story, and I thought it's kind of cool. So anyways, that's the super duper Halloween special that arrived really late. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you around.